Hey, welcome back. Today, we're diving into the foundations with a hands-on look at some of the most critical ports and protocols you need to know instead of just memorizing flashcards. We're going to look at actual traffic for SSH, RDP, DNS, and HTTP in both Linux and Windows environments. Let's get started. First up, we have SSH, or Secure Shell, which operates on TCP port 22. On the left, we have Linux PC1. On the right, we have Linux PC2. The left will be our source, the right will be our destination. In order to see the IP configuration, we're going to use a tool called ifconfig. We have to install a package first, and I'll install it on both machines. Run ifconfig and see the IP configuration. We're looking for the first interface, Ethernet 0, and we can see that we have two IP addresses, 172.16.0.5 and 10.0.0.5. Now that we know the IP address of our target machine, we'll enter the SSH command and enter the IP address of the target we're trying to reach. Upon hitting enter, it will ask me if I'm sure I want to continue. I will say yes, and that's going to prompt me for a password. Once I enter my password and hit enter, we can see that I'm now connected to Linux PC2. Let's move on to the Windows equivalent of SSH, which is RDP, which operates at port 3389. In this example, I'm going to set up a packet capture using a tool called Wireshark, which we'll cover in a later section. But I want to show you how packets look when they arrive on the destination machine. Once I start my capture, I'm ready to enter in the IP address of my target machine. For this one, it's 10.0.0.4. Once I hit connect, it will ask me for my password, similar to SSH. I'll then be prompted for a certificate error, and I'll go ahead and click yes. As you can see, it removed my server session from the right because I've now remote desktoped into the machine from the computer on the left. Looking at the packet capture we took, I've already added in some filters up top. We'll do another session on Wireshark alone and what these filters mean and how they work and what you should know about them. We can then see from the packet capture that we have our conversation. We're using protocol TCP, and it's connecting on port 3389. We can expand these packets and actually see the OSI layer. Starting at the bottom, we have TCP, which is our layer 4. Then going up, we have Internet Protocol, which is layer 3. And above that, you see Ethernet, which is going to be layer 2. Let's move on and start to explore DNS, Domain Name System. Remember, this is what's used to convert friendly names like example.com to IP addresses. That way, we don't have to enter an IP address every time we want to reach a server. Here, I'm showing you a quick example of what happens when I try to reach the server without the DNS role installed. As you'll see, we get a whole bunch of DNS request timeouts. Because the role's not actually installed, the server doesn't know what to do with these requests. Let's go ahead and install the DNS role on the server so you can see what that actually looks like and how it functions in real time. The first thing I want to call out is a Server Manager dashboard. This is going to be where you install roles and features, and also oftentimes where you'll go to manage those. At the top, you'll see Manage. We'll click on Add Roles and Features. You'll always be prompted with this before you begin page, and installation type, and server selection. Typically, you'll leave these as default. Next, you actually select the role you want to install. For this, we want to install DNS Server. We'll add any features that are necessary for the role to work. We'll hit continue after validation. Click next. We're not selecting any features, so we can skip that. We'll hit next. I always like to select the restart destination server automatically if required and hit install. One thing to note with the restart server, if this is a production server, you would want to plan downtime. You wouldn't want to select that feature. Now that the role is installed, let's go ahead and start our packet capture and run the same nslookup command to our server and see if we get a different response this time. Look at that, we got an answer. Now if we filter the packet captures that we took by DNS flag, which again, I'll talk about filters in a later video, we could then go and find our conversation. UDP doesn't have something nice and neat like the three-way handshake. So what I often use to find a conversation is I look at the source port, which is called an ephemeral port. It's going to be a random port unique to that conversation. So if you have the source port on the left side and match the source port on the right side and the timestamp lines up and the source and destination IP line up, then you're likely looking at the same conversation. Just like in RDP, we can expand our packets. This time, we actually see the layer 7 header here as well, which is going to be DNS. Or as we see, domain name service, parentheses, query. Let's take a look at another example of a service that isn't running. For this one, we're going to try to access a website on our server by going to our browser, typing in the IP address with HTTP in front of it. We're going to start a packet capture so we can see what happens once we hit enter. Upon hitting enter, we see it loading, but it says the page cannot be reached. If we look at our packet capture, entered by the TCP port, which is port 80 because it's HTTP traffic, and the IP address of our target 10.0.0.4, we can see that we're sending out SYNs, but all we receive in response is a reset. That's because the server doesn't know what to do with these requests at this time. Let's go and install the IIS or web server role on our server machine. Again, we're going to go to Manage Roles and Features. We're going to skip through the first three. We're going to select the web server role, which is at the bottom, and in parentheses, IIS. It's going to prompt us with the same additional features that we have to add in order for the service to work. We'll skip the features. We'll go to the roles and services. We'll go to confirmation. We'll select our restart destination server automatically if required, and we'll hit install. While the feature is installing, I'm going to show you a tool called psping, which lives inside of a package called pstools that can be downloaded. The way this command works is you enter psping in the beginning, you enter your target destination. This could be an IP address or a friendly name. For this example, we're using google.com. You do a colon and the port you want to test on. We're doing port 80. As you can see, we're getting replies. So now that our role is installed on the right side, our server, let's do the same test and see if we get a reply. As you can see, we're now getting a response on port 80 from our server. So let's go back and test our website. Going back to our site, we can see it automatically refreshed, and we're now getting prompted with the default IaaS window. If we want to see what this conversation looks like, we can open up Wireshark again. We can reopen our web browser, go back to our site, we see that it prompts the default page. We can now stop our captures. We can filter them by the same ports we used earlier, which is TCP port 80. And we'll add the IP address that we want to talk to, which is 10.0.0.4. So now it's only showing conversations on port 80 to that destination IP. We'll also copy that on our server side, but we'll change the IP address to 172.16.0.4. That's going to be the IP address of our client in this example. You can see that we get the same packets on both sides, which means we found the conversation starting with the SYN. Below that's the SYNAC, and then the ACK, that's our three-way handshake. And then once you see it change to GETS and HTTP, that is working at the layer 7 level. If we click on one of those get packets, we can see Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That's a layer 7 protocol, and we can do the same on the client side as well. I hope you found this walkthrough to be helpful and informative. If there's something I missed, covered too fast, or you wish you would have seen, just leave it in the comments or let me know, and I'm happy to do another video elaborating on anything. Stay tuned for my upcoming videos, and we can keep diving deeper into networking and getting better together.